Hi, everybody. Welcome back to General Science. Now, in the last episode, we did our chemical reaction demos in our kitchen laboratory with Cameron making a guest appearance. And now, today, we're going to start our latest science in general science, which is going to be physics. So, to this episode, we really just wanted to focus on what physics is and what it's all about. Physics, okay, unlike the other two sciences we've talked about so far, is a little bit more all-encompassing than biology and chemistry, right? Biology focuses on living things, so things that are alive, humans, animals, plants, whatever. Chemistry applies to the atoms and molecules that are in those living things and in other things as well, right? Non-living things too. Now, physics is a little bit more, like I said, all-encompassing because it deals with the way those atoms and things interact, but as well as other bigger, larger things like planets and gravity and all that kind of stuff. Physics really kind of tries to get down to the nitty-gritty of why things do the things they do, which is what makes it so different. Now, physics has two main kind of branches in it, and the first branch is what's called classical physics. Classical physics is the physics of basically prior to the 1800s, and it talks about things like how things move, how heat works. They get to like a little bit about electricity, some sort of stuff like that. So if you think about like the basic sort of things that you'd learn in like elementary or middle school science, that is generally classical physics. Now, in the 18 and 1900s, we started moving into this new realm of physics, which is called quantum physics, which really deals with certain specific things that classical physics just doesn't quite describe. And that includes like how the attraction between subatomic particles work, how atoms do all the things they do, gravity, these kind of things, these bigger questions that we couldn't really quite figure out with classical physics. It turns out you need to know a little bit more. You have to learn more about what's called quantum mechanics so that you can do that. So that's the other major kind of branch of physics. So there's kind of like this classical part, which kind of deals with like your everyday run-of-the-mill objects, right? And then there's the quantum physics, which is more of like the small and the really big, or the really fast. So to talk a little bit more about each, in classical physics, we're talking about about like motion and heat and all that kind of stuff, things you would have seen in like chemistry or in biology. Now, for quantum physics, you learn about other things that are a little bit harder to visualize, right? It's hard to visualize an atom or the space-time thing of gravity, and it requires a lot of math, a lot of thinking to kind of get your head wrapped around it. But it's becoming more and more important. In fact, a lot of people think of physics as kind of physicists as the people who are finding the answers to the most essential questions scientists have, right? What are the fundamental forces that hold our universe together? How exactly does matter work? Those sorts of things are what physicists do. Which also kind of makes it the hardest science, right? Because you're dealing with the really difficult questions, right? It's not just, what happens when this chemical and this chemical react, or how do I make this chemical, or why do these animals behave this way? It's more of a, why are we made of atoms, and why are the atoms acting the way they act, right? That's pretty difficult stuff to understand. Now, are we going to get into a lot of that in our course? No. We'll talk about it a little bit. But for the most part, we're going to be dealing with classical physics, right? Mostly just because it's easier to understand, it's easier to teach, and of course, this is an online course about science. I don't have the resources to teach you a lot about quantum physics, but I'll do what I can. I hope this has been a decent introduction into what we're going to be talking about in the future when it comes to general science, and I'm excited to get started with physics. See you soon, where we're going to start learning about motion.